Olá pessoal, tudo bem? Fabiano Malheiros. Eu estou aqui com uma grande autoridade aqui falando sobre personal trainer. Ele é conhecido como treinador dos treinadores, Nick Tumminello. E a gente vai fazer aqui um bate-papo falando sobre treinamento, falando sobre carreira, e ele vai dar algumas dicas aqui do que ele vem fazendo aqui nos Estados Unidos como treinador dos treinadores. Hi Nick.
How you doing, my friend?
Thank you for your participation here and for share your what your tips. Thank you and I appreciate your participation here.
Oh, I appreciate you having me, and I appreciate everybody who's taking the time to listen to this. So it's an honor to have you do this with me. So
thank you. My question is simple about the career of personal training and about training, and I'd like to know what do you see to the next future and to the next years to personal training career?
In regards to the general personal trainer or my own career?
To the general.
What's the next thing?
Yeah,
the next important thing. Well, I would say the next thing really hasn't changed from what I would say 5 years ago if you asked me this question, which is really the importance of good program design and understanding which exercises not to use and which exercises to emphasize based on the individual's goal. Because the issue that we have now is there's lots of information out there. You know, with YouTube, type in medicine ball exercises in YouTube and you're going to get, 10,000 videos of medicine ball exercises. Now, surely all of them can't be great for every single client, and surely you can't use all of those exercises. That's not even including suspension trainer exercises and dumbbell exercises and barbell and kettlebell and body weight and everything else. So we have so much information. The challenge now is not finding information, it's filtering information, and it's organizing which, out of all the exercises that we know, which ones do we focus on for individual clients' goals, and which ones do we leave out, and which ones do we progress. And that doesn't come from a knowledge of knowing lots of exercises, it comes from a knowledge of program design. How to design a program, how to sequence exercises, how to progress exercises, and progressively design a progressive program that takes somebody from where they're starting to where they want to be in a safe manner that gets them to where they want to go. So I would say that is where we need to keep moving forward, is knowing lots of exercises but knowing how to use them and which ones not to use and how to design programs better.
Perfect. It's better.
Yeah.
And when you start a new client, what the assessments do you use to start to
find a training direction?
Yeah, to find to find it and the results, to make the result to client.
Gotcha. Well, it's actually very simple. There's in the fitness industry we have a lot of very complex orthopedic assessment procedures, and then we have some more simple screening procedures that supposedly look at that identify dysfunctions and things like that. I think all those are fine if you want to use them, but I don't get caught up in any of those things. The way I find a safe training direction, keeping individuality in mind, really comes down to watching my clients move. I want to see how they perform a basic hip hinge, like can they do a deadlift, because that tells me a lot. Now, not everybody has to do a deadlift, but I'm just going to ask them to show me how they would do that. Things like a row, things like a push, like a band push or a push-up. And I just look at the basic movement patterns. I want to see how you rotate, I want to see how you push, I want to see how you pull, I want to see how you squat, I want to see how you hip hinge, which is like a deadlift. And then from there, based on what I see, I may regress those exercises to fit your body. Because here's the issue. I'm not trying to fit, and this is the key, I'm not going to try to fit any individual to a certain set of exercises or a certain set of standards, because we all come in different shapes and sizes, right?
Yeah.
So even though we're the same species, humans, our parts are put together differently. So function comes in all shapes and sizes, which means structure, and structure determines function. So even though you and I squat, you're much taller than me, we squat differently because of lever arms and things. So you might not squat the same way I do, and an optimal squat for you is not necessarily the optimal squat for me. This is why we have lots of exercise variations. Some people need to do a wider stance, other people can do a closer stance based on hip structure, lever length, femur length. So what I'm doing in these cases is I want to watch you squat, and then we're going to adjust things. How I have you hold a weight. Maybe you're better off holding a weight in front of you to keep a better torso position. Maybe you're better off with a bar behind you.
Perfect.
Those are the things I'm going to adjust, and we're going to experiment with in that initial assessment to find which exercises. So here's the takeaway. I'm going to find which exercises best fit you. I'm not going to fit you to a certain set of exercises that I deem to be the best for everyone. You see? And that comes down to this. Once we find those, I'm looking for what I call the 2 C's. Comfort and control. Means when I say comfort, I want you to be able to perform the exercises I give you pain-free, no pain. When I say pain, I mean joint pain, aches. I don't mean muscle, fatigue, right? So I mean it doesn't cause any pain.
Okay.
Second is, so that would be comfort. Second is control, which means that you can demonstrate the technique that I'm asking of you. If I say to keep your knees in line with your feet, if I say to keep your back straight, whatever it is that I say, that you can demonstrate that you can control that through the range of motion. If you can't do an exercise without pain, or you can't demonstrate good control after I've coached you up on it, then I'm giving you an exercise that doesn't fit you. We need to modify the exercise or regress the exercise until I find one. So that's really how I go about finding a safe training direction.
Perfect. I think so. This training in Brazil is very common. Is a success at functional training.
Right.
Yes, but I don't know. Right. What is functional training?
That's the problem. Yeah.
What do you say? The safe training. I think so. This is functional training. You agree?
Well, that word.
What are your vision about functional training?
So we're opening up a huge window here of things. So the first problem with the term. First off, the word functional is a great word. All right.
Yeah.
The problem is it's not the word. It's that there are so many different definitions. So, and that's okay. We can have different definitions to things, but before we have discussions about, if you say, oh, this is functional, and I say, no, that's not, this is functional.
Okay.
The problem is if we just jump right into that discussion, we are not establishing what do you mean by functional and what do I mean by functional. You see, and then we end up talking past one another. So before we have these discussions, we have to first establish what do you mean by when you say functional or non-functional. You see? And as long as you describe to me what you mean by that, then I know that I'm not going to misunderstand you. Even if I disagree with the definition that you gave, I still know what you mean when you say it. Now, if we go by the dictionary definition of what's functional, right? Because that's normally what we do when we want to know what a word looks like, what it means. If we go by the dictionary definition, we basically find 2 things. It's basically a purpose. It's what something has been designed to do, or its task, right? So it's about specificity, really. So a hammer is functional for banging in nails and pulling out nails, the other side of it. It's not very functional for hitting a baseball. Okay? It's not designed for that. You see? So when we look at the dictionary definition, it's more about task specificity. Now, from a human perspective, functional, we can take that in 2 directions. Both can run parallel. Both can be worked together. One could say that, therefore, functional means it's specific towards the individual's goal, right? So if I'm a bodybuilder and my goal is to maximize bicep size, then you could, by that definition, you could say bicep curls are one of the most functional exercises that you could do. However, if I'm a cross-country skier, then bicep curls may be lower on the functional, priority list, because that doesn't have as much direct transfer into what I'm training for, which would be to become a better, cross-country skier. So that would mean that functional can't be determined. In this case, it would mean that functional can't be determined by what the exercise looks like or the tools that you're using. It's determined by what the goal of the individual is. Right?
Right.
Okay, so that's a very legitimate definition. That's what I would call specific exercises. Exercises that have a specific transfer to the goal that the individual is training for. Goals vary, therefore what's functional in this case varies. Now, there's another aspect we can look at function, which is more of the general sense, meaning what is the general function of the body, right? So we could say that the function of the elbow is to do this. It's certainly not to go the other way, because then you injure yourself. So we're kind of looking at it from a general sense. You know, what are the general functions of the human body? And this is where things get caught up. So in that case, you could say that anything that basically increases, you know, tendon strength, anything that could potentially reduce injury, anything that helps you improve your coordination could then be considered functional. And that's where it starts to open up, because then people can just basically say anything can be functional at that point. And this is where we end up getting some of the crazy stuff that you see. So in that case, we have to look at, and I know I'm dragging on here, but like I said, we open up a big window when we talk about this. In that case, we start to have to look at, again, it goes back to, what am I training for? Because if anything can be functional at that point, then nothing is functional. Does that make sense? Right? Yeah. So we have to have some criteria and something to measure. So that's really what I go by. If something has a specific carryover to whatever the goal is, then I call that a specific exercise. If something is just general, where I can say, well, this is going to generally improve your tendon strength or improve your motor coordination or improve total body coordination, whatever, then I just call that a general exercise.
Okay. And I'd like to know, you is considered trainer of the trainers. I see your videos on the internet. I appreciate your work, and I'd like to know some tips to the audience, my audience, for personal trainers in Brazil, some tips about career, about of personal training.
Yeah, how to improve
to
your
improve
career,
your career, to improve your you know, things to do better the work of personal training.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I would say this, and by the way, thank you for the compliments there, and I would say the same for you. You're doing videos and you're reaching out and you're trying to give back to the training community, so I hope your colleagues recognize that. And I would say that take a page out of your book, and things that you're trying to do is, number one, keep trying to learn. Keep talking to other people who are out there doing things, and not necessarily those who always agree with you, right? Because sometimes when you get challenged is when you really start to think about, maybe I'm not right on everything. So that's the first thing I would say. Be more humble about the beliefs and opinions that you have, and understand that training is a very multi-dimensional thing. We have physiology, psychology, biomechanics, right? Pain, muscle growth. All these things can be considered individual sciences. So there's always going to be somebody out there who knows more about one of those subjects than you do, right? Seek those people out, learn from them, and don't ever think that you are all-knowing and then that you can't be wrong. Be willing to say that you're wrong. So continued growth in education is a big one. I would also recommend that in the current age that we live is a social media age. I highly recommend that every personal trainer try to put together a blog, right? Write a blog. And if you're not as comfortable with writing, try to do your own videos. It doesn't mean that you're going to get 1 million views and all of a sudden you're going to become the next superstar. But what that does is two really big things. Well, more than two. Number one, it helps you better organize your thoughts. It helps you become a better communicator. And everything is about communication. If I can't communicate the training knowledge I have in my head to you, I can't coach you. I can't give it to you, right? And that's the best gift that you can give anybody, is share your knowledge with them. And the better that you can communicate in the more easy to understand format, the better people will understand it. And the only way to do that is continue to practice doing it. The other thing that gives you is that it takes that knowledge that you have and it doesn't just share it with the people who are coming into your gym or meeting you every day. It allows you to share it with a broader audience all over the world, right? So think about it. If you and I were just having a conversation right now and we didn't have this camera on, then you and I would be the only two people that ever knew this happened and got to benefit from any knowledge that was exchanged here, right? But simply by taking the time to put it on film, now it's out there forever. And anybody can watch it. And anybody can take maybe one thing that you said or I said and go, man, that really made me think, or that really inspired me to do this or to do that. That's pretty powerful, right?
Perfect.
So just keep that in mind. Take the time to put these things out there because you never know how many people it can help. And then it gives you that opportunity to work with people, or to communicate with people who you never meet all over the world. And that's pretty powerful. So those would be my two tips to keep getting educated and put yourself out there.
Perfect, perfect. It's good. Nick, it's a great time with you here. I appreciate your participation here in this interview. Share what you know, and I really appreciate your participation here.
I really appreciate you having me, my friend. It means a lot, and I hope everybody watching understands the hard work you put into bring them good information, and I hope they take it as an inspiration. So I appreciate the inspiration you're giving me, my friend.
Oh, thank you a lot, Galera, vocês estão assistindo aí e aproveitaram um pouco desse conhecimento do Nick aqui. Se você gostou, dá uma ajuda pra mim aí, vai em curtir aqui embaixo, compartilha esse vídeo que é muito importante para levar essa informação pra frente, tá bom? A gente se vê aí mais pra frente no próximo vídeo. Valeu, Nick.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Um abraço aí pra todos. Valeu.